Hello everyone, this is Jason Merkel from Horizon Hobby, and we're out at the flying field today to show you guys a really cool, exciting, updated and upgraded version of the E-flite Habu SS 50mm EDF. So this is a model we introduced a few years ago in the original form. You'll remember it was orange painted. This is now blue to help identify the difference between the two. But the big thing about that product was, at the time, it was one of the few 50mm EDFs that was out there. It was 3S compatible, which was great. It was one of the first that actually had a functional rudder, which was awesome. And it's been a fantastic seller for us for a couple of years now. But over the last couple of years, the expectation has been, hey, I want more power. We saw guys putting 4S batteries in them, burning up motors, burning up ESCs. And we said, hey, we could actually also do that for the customer and make it both 3S and 4S compatible. So that's the big change for this. Be sure to check out the video, the overview video that I did, where I explain all the differences between this and the original model. Go into some of the differences with some of the larger Habu models as well. But I wanted to show you guys this in action today. I am flying it first with the 3S 2200 milliamp battery installed. I'm also flying it with the DXS transmitter that came with the AeroScout that I flew earlier today, to show that when you are learning to fly with one of those trainer aircraft, you can easily then use that DXS transmitter, the same 3-cell 2200 that you used to fly your AeroScout, to fly this as your second airplane. You don't have to go out and buy a new transmitter. You don't have to go out and buy a new battery to make that kind of next step into a skill level 2 airplane like this. And if your goal is to get into EDF jets, this is by far one of the best ones. The Habu series are fantastic overall because they're high performance, but at the same time, they have a special wing design, which makes them handle really, really well at low speeds, makes them easier to take off, easier to land, easier to handle in the air. I do want to make a real quick note that on this version, which I do talk about in the overview video, in the tail cone, we do actually have some weight in the back. And the reason for that is when you use a 4S battery, it ends up being very nose heavy if you don't have the weight in the back. With the 3-cell 2200, the Spectrum 2230C battery, which is very, very light for a 2200 3-cell, it's a little on the tail heavy side for my taste. You could add some nose weight, or you could actually take the tail cone off and remove the tail weight. So if you only plan on flying it on 3S, I would recommend removing the tail weight. It's just glued in there lightly. You can just tap it out, pop it out. Then if you're flying it on 3S, the CG is about right. Also, your other option is you leave the tail weight in, add some nose weight. Some other brands of 3-cell 2200s will be heavier. Even 3-cell 1800s might be heavier than this Spectrum one. You may not need to add weight, it depends. With the 4-cell battery, at least the Spectrum 4S 2230C that I'm gonna fly with today, I liked having that extra tail cone weight. That did help a lot, but I am gonna fly it today in box stock form. So we got the weight back there. I've got my 3-cell 2200 mounted as far forward in the battery compartment as I can get it, so it's not too tail heavy. I'm gonna fly it first with the landing gear and 3S. Then I'm gonna land, I'm gonna swap to a 4S, show you the difference in performance. It's pretty substantial, the difference between a 3S and a 4S. Then I'm gonna remove the landing gear, hand launch and belly land on the grass. So a lot to show you, a lot to talk about. Let's get to it. So one thing I didn't mention in the overview video is that this is the Bind and Fly basic version, and the Smart Light ESC that's in it is motor reverse, thrust reverse capable. So what I did, I'm using a DXS here today. Normally, if you use like an NX7E+, NX8+, you can go into the forward programming from the transmitter, the TextGen programming, and you can scroll over to the airwear menu, or sorry, the AV and ESC menu, and you can change to the reversing there. What I did is you can follow through the long way of programming with the DXS to, do the transmitter beeps and all that to enable the reversing. So the nice thing about the DXS is actually a 7-channel transmitter. So I set the reversing to channel 7, which happens to be this D switch. So I can't reverse the switch easily. You can change that, but in this case, I just left it the way it is. So my reversing is on this switch. You don't really need to use the thrust reversing, but I will show that it does work. It is in action. I also have Safe Select enabled on the switch B, the channel for that one. It's got Safe Select here, and then AS3X and AS3X. And I'm gonna take off in AS3X mode to show you guys that first. But you can see here, it does have the reverse thrust. It doesn't have a lot of reverse thrust. It's stuck on a rock right now. Show you that reverse real quick. So it doesn't have a ton of power to reverse, but the nice thing about the reverse thrust is if you are landing and rolling out a little too long, you can engage that and it can shorten your rollout on landing. So that's a really nice touch when it comes to EDF aircraft. Again, 3-cell battery to start with. I'm gonna fly without Safe Select turned on for now. And on 3S, the performance is very good. And if you're just moving into EDF airplanes, let's say you've just graduated from your AeroScout, the 3-cell battery is a great place to start. It's not too fast. It's got good power, good performance. It's still plenty fast at full throttle. And has plenty of power. You can do a nice loop from level flight. You don't need a lot more power than the 3S, it's plenty. Of course on 4S, it's even more exciting. Nothing wrong with that, but you don't need 4S. The performance on 3S is not quite as good as the original version was because we had to make the lower kV motors to handle 4S, but it's still very good. Again, plenty of power. You can see I can pull up into half a loop here and roll out. Good speed, still decent flight time. All the power to do basic aerobatics. Now, admittedly, when you don't have as much power, you actually have to be a better pilot. When you have extra power, you can get out of trouble by using the extra power. When you don't have as much power, you have to use energy management a little bit better. But that's actually a good thing, learning that with this 3-cell battery. Take it up and do a high-speed pass out of a dive to show you guys how fast it is. Back by and do that. So it's a bit slower with the landing gear installed because of the extra drag of that. But again, you see on 3 cells, still plenty fast. The nice thing is, and probably the best aspect of Habus, which is why they're such a great choice as a first EDF jet, is the fact that you can fly it slow. So now I'm at half throttle and you can see the speed is slower, but still not slow, but slower than a lot of EDFs can fly comfortably. It has really good low speed handling at this slower speed. Bring it down a little lower. It's important when you're making these turns down low that you add a little bit of rudder to help bring that nose around in a coordinated turn. Otherwise, that nose can get a little too high and you can stall. But again, the unique wing design on the Habu is a big part of why it has excellent slow speed performance and slow speed handling. All right, throttle back up here. I'm gonna climb a little bit more and I'm gonna now show you Safe Select in action. So when you have Safe Select turned on, and then you ultimately, when it's enabled, and then when you turn it on, you basically have the equivalent of like the beginner mode. So I'm gonna roll upside down, and now I'm gonna flip the switch to turn safe on. So now I have the equivalent of what's like the Aero Scout beginner mode, where I've got angle limits, so I can't roll upside down. So even when I hold the stick all the way in the corner, the airplane won't roll over. It won't roll upside down, it just stays, and when I let go of the stick, it goes right back to level. You can do that to the left. They also went to a little bit more aggressive angle on the bank angle limit for this model, so you can turn a little bit tighter because EDFs cover a lot more ground. It's nice to be able to turn a little tighter. Normally, I would always recommend you only use high rates when you have safe on, but in this example, I would say actually low rates are okay. So the low rate is 70%, which means that now when I hold the stick all the way to one side, it'll only bank 70% of the full angle, which is still very good. You see, I can still make very tight turns with that. And when I pull back on the stick, there's the pitch angle. Still very high, even in the low rates. So safe works great for that. So if you are flying around and you have the experience mode on and you get into trouble, let's say you get inverted, you're gonna crash, just flip right back to the beginner mode, Safe Select on, and look at that, it gets right back to level on its own. Really easy to fly in this mode. If you're just learning to fly EDFs, if this is your second airplane after you're a trainer, you'll probably wanna do your first flights with Safe Select turned on. It's a lot easier to take off and land with Safe Select, that's for sure. Now the goal is to ultimately get to a point where you don't have to take off and land with Safe, but if you have to for your first few flights or all your flights, that's totally fine. I'm gonna go ahead and make a landing here into the wind. The wind is shifting a little bit. Take a look at our windsock, see where we're at. Yeah, so now the wind shifted. So I'm gonna have to land left to right here. The nice thing about this airplane is that it does glide well for a jet. It's actually one of the best things about it and one of the biggest complaints about it. People say, hey, these Habus, they glide forever. I wish they had flaps. You don't need flaps. You just need to learn to manage your approach accordingly. In this case, you basically make a longer, flatter approach with a Habu than you will with other EDF jets. Well, there we go. Stuck it nice and easy. I did land in safe there just to show you guys how it looks. It is easier to land in safe without a doubt. So now I'm going to taxi back over here. We're going to swap to the 4-cell battery and show you guys the performance difference even with the landing gear installed. Then I'm going to remove the landing gear, which is easy to do. You don't need a tool. You don't need anything other than your thumb and your finger to unscrew the thumb screw to remove the nose wheel. All right. Turn throttle cut on. I'm going to swap the battery out. The battery compartment's a little tight for a 4-cell battery. Originally, the airplane was designed for 3 cells. We did our best to modify things to make it fit 4 cells as good as possible, but the big thing is that we did change the power system so it is 4S compatible right out of the box. And that is a big deal because I think a lot of people want the option. If you're just graduating from your trainer, 3 cells is great. But if you're ready for high performance, 4 cells is awesome. It's unbelievable how fast it is. A couple people that saw me fly it earlier were remarking just how surprised they were by how fast it is for the size. All right, we'll let that initialize. All right, so now we've got the 4S battery in there. The CG is going to be a little bit more nose heavy now. So I'm going to add a couple clicks of up trim, and then I'll trim it out when I get it into the air. All right, how's our wind doing? Yep, looks like we are still pretty much right to left down the runway. So we'll taxi out here on the center line, turn off safe. And you'll hear audibly, it's noticeably got more sound to it. And that's because it does have considerably more power of 4S. The vertical is much better. And then I'm gonna do a real fast downwind pass here so you guys can see just how fast it is coming out of a dive. It is cooking. Really good speed, really good vertical, even still good flight time. That's the impressive part. And this is into the wind. Still excellent, excellent speed and great vertical. Not unlimited vertical, but excellent vertical for by most EDF standards. And the nice thing is with the 4-cell battery, you've got that extra thrust and speed. You can do bigger loops if you want. Do really cool snaps. And this is just a wonderful flying airframe that does all the basic aerobatics, so you can do all the rolling maneuvers that you would normally do. Again, the loops like you saw. Point rolls. The nice thing is it does have a functional rudder, so you can do those, where a lot of 50mm class models don't have a rudder, so you lack having that option. Bring it by inverted. It flies great inverted. Of course, that's something that you will want to practice, probably on the real flight simulator before you do it on your actual model for the first time. It's cooking. Awesome. Look at that, you can push out of that. Excellent vertical. Really great. I'm gonna bring it by fast. And then I'm gonna pull the power and you can kind of hear the wind whooshing off of it. I'm gonna slow things down because I want you to see how slow you can fly it, even with the 4-cell battery in there. With the 4-cell battery, it does have a little more weight. Again, it's a little more nose heavy. But one of the nice things about Habus is that you can actually kind of high alpha them a little bit. Not as much as say an F-16, but if you hold a little bit of up elevator, you can keep the nose up, slow things down a bit, and still make turns down low. Slow. Again, use the rudder, bring that nose around. That coordinated turn is very important, especially when you're flying slow, so you don't stall. Bring it into the wind, let's show you just how slow it can go. I mean, that's remarkably slow for any EDF airplane, especially one that is as fast as this is at full throttle. So I'm gonna go ahead and land really quick and remove the landing gear and show you guys a hand launch, show you the speed without the landing gear installed, and then I will also land it on the grass. Get it in here. I'll show you that reversing too real quick. I'm gonna land a little fast, a little hot, a little long, and then I'm gonna engage that reverse thrust, give it full throttle, and you can see it slow down. It would have probably rolled almost twice as far if I didn't do that reversing. So it's kind of cool to have that option available. You don't have to use it, but it is a nice touch if you're flying on a paved surface and you do happen to run a little bit long. Taxi it over here and we'll remove the landing gear. Also show you one of my favorite features of this airplane is that it does have smart telemetry. So you can see it's showing here that I've got a little under 50%, probably closer to 30-ish% left. So normally you probably would swap the battery here. In fact, I probably will, just to be safe. I'll go ahead and swap the battery out. But it's nice that you have that voltage telemetry even with the DXS. But if you have a computer transmitter, you can see the voltage on the screen of the battery, the approximate amount left in by the battery bar. You can see motor RPM, ESC temperature. It's really, really cool stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap the battery just to be safe though. Plus, then you guys can really see how fast it is without the gear installed and a nice fresh battery in there. Really quick, I've got the battery out. I'm going to show you. This is the thumb screw to remove the nose gear. It's really easy to do. Just twist that out of there. I'm going to leave the arm in there, the control arm. There's no reason to pull that out. So there you have it. That's already out of there. I'm going to put the thumb screw back in the nose gear so we don't lose that. That is important to have. And then the main gear are very easy. They just snap right out. And then twist out, pop, pull. And now I'm going to install a fresh 4-cell battery. By the way, I am flying 30C batteries today. You don't need more than that. You can fit up to a 100C battery. I did fly that earlier. I will say it does have a little bit more speed, a little bit more vertical with the 100C battery versus the 30C, but you don't need it. This does not pull enough current like some larger EDFs to absolutely require a 100C battery, but it doesn't hurt. If you're gonna buy a bigger battery, definitely, or higher performance battery, 100C does give you a little extra boost in performance. It'll run a little cooler, especially on a hot day. Okay. So now, without the landing gear installed, the CG is going to be a little different. Also, the drag is going to be a little bit different. You can see here on the bottom, there are places for you to put your fingers if you're left-handed or right-handed. Now, everybody's a little different in the way that they like to grip an airplane. Normally, I like to have this finger back here, but the way these are set up, I'm going to go ahead and launch it more or less with my hand on the grip like that. Not everyone likes to hold the airplane the same way. Also, not everybody likes to hand launch because it's not super easy for everybody to do. If you're not comfortable throwing a baseball, hand launching isn't necessarily for you. My recommendation is, no matter what, for your first flight, go to find a paved area, use the landing gear, get the airplane trimmed, get a good feel for it. And then if you do want to try hand launching, I would definitely take the gear off after you've already trimmed it, already gotten it comfortable with it with the landing gear installed. Then go ahead and do the hand launch and landing on grass. So we got a little bit of wind still, yep, here. So we're gonna go ahead and walk over this way and launch it beyond the pits over here. I am going to launch it with Safe Select turned on because that gives me the hand launch assist mode. The benefit of that mode is it senses when I launch the airplane based on the G-force, and when it senses that, it adds a little bit of up elevator to help the airplane climb out. So even if my launch isn't as good as it should have been or could have been, I can still potentially recover from that. After a few seconds and it gains some extra altitude, it'll start to level off, and then I have a choice to fly around in safe, or I can turn safe off and then fly it with AS3X. All right, turn off throttle cut. Feels good. And here we go. So you can see it climbing now, and after a second or two, it'll lower the nose a little bit. The hand launch assist mode now is turned off. So I'm flying it with safe enabled at the moment. So you can see with safe on, even at full throttle, it does climb a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. It climbs a little bit more when it's in the hand launch assist mode. But now I'm going to turn safe off. And I'm going to show you guys just how fast it can be. It's pretty impressive. It is moving. It is really impressive, the speed on 4S. It is noticeably faster, noticeably more vertical even. And that's, a combination of the 4S, but also without the landing gear, it's even better. Just sounds awesome too. One of the nice things we did do is we changed to remove the cheater holes that we had in the original version on the bottom of the airplane. And the benefit there is when you land on the grass, you don't really have a lot of stuff getting inside the fan, a lot of FOD getting in there. That was a problem with the original version. I would fly it in some places, and if I wasn't careful, I would end up ingesting things into the fan, potentially damaging the fan. But we don't have that issue now because we don't have the cheater hole on the bottom anymore. Do a nice inverted pass here. Oh, it's awesome. Look at the vertical. So good. And then because you don't have the landing gear installed, the airplane is a little bit lighter, the wing loading is a little bit lower, so you can actually fly it even slower than you could with the landing gear installed. Yeah, and you can bring the nose up a little more too, a little high alpha. We got our Roadrunner on the runway. But yeah, it's impressive the speed range of this particular model and all the Habus really, that they can fly as slow as they can fly, a little bit high alpha, and then you can punch the power and they go. Oh, another thing we did do on this version, which I talk about in the overview video, is we did make the rudder taller. So originally it stopped a little bit lower on the fin. We extended it all the way to the top. Gives us a little bit more rudder authority to help with knife edge. And then you can do some cool snaps and things too. Do one real quick. Awesome. Again, really fun to fly EDF that's also easier to fly than most. Great low speed handling, excellent high speed performance as well, especially on 4S. Plenty though on 3S. Really good high contrast trim scheme so you can tell the top from the bottom very easily. That is helpful. Even more helpful than the colors are, being able to tell what is the bottom versus the top. Nice big loop here. I love hearing the airframe whistle when you have the throttle off. It's really cool. All right, we'll do another inverted pass and then we're gonna set up for a landing. And again, with the Habus, they do glide very, very well, especially with no landing gear. That's so fantastic. Love it. All right, so we're gonna bring it in for a landing. Now, so with the Habu airframes being as slippery as they are and having such good low speed handling and also good energy retention characteristics, you want to make a longer, flatter approach. I'm gonna go around on this one, but I wanna just show you that you gotta go from further out and from lower than you might normally with a typical EDF, which in some ways is a bad thing. People complain about it because it does require a little bit different technique, but in a way it's a good thing because it just means it glides so darn well. So I'm gonna pull the power now. You can see about how far out I'm at the end of the runway there. And I'm gonna bring it down, let it come down, bleed that energy, keep the throttle off for now. Add a little bit of power to bring it a little closer. There you go. So there you guys have it, the E-flite Habu SS Super Sport 50mm EDF. A great first EDF, a great second airplane after a trainer if your goal is to ultimately get into flying larger, faster, more capable EDFs. This is a great place to start. Also just a great all-around fun to fly sport airplane. Small enough, easy to transport, easy to store. Flies on a 3SL 2200, flies on a 4SL 2200. You can use lower capacity batteries as well. We do cover that in the overview video. Be sure to check out the links that we have down below in the description and in that first pinned comment to see those videos and also link to the airplane for more information. It's available now at your favorite local hobby shop and horizonhobby.com. Thank you for watching.